Hi, welcome to this screencast. Today we're going to be talking about accessible STEM or science, technology, engineering, and math content. We're going to primarily be focusing our efforts today in discussing accessible math and chemistry equations, since those are two areas where we tend to see a lot of barriers faced by students with disabilities, especially in an online format. My name is Carrie Millian. I'm the Assistive Tech Specialist here at DVC and a faculty member in Disability Support Services. So it would be good to start off with clarifying what we mean by accessible. So when online content is quote unquote accessible, it means a person with a disability is afforded the opportunity to acquire the same information, engage in the same interactions, and enjoy the same services as a person without a disability in an equally effective and equally integrated manner with substantially equivalent ease of use. So that's a mouthful, but in a nutshell, what that means is we don't want a student with a disability to have any other hardships to accessing our material that we would assume would be available to a student without a disability. So they shouldn't have to jump through a lot of extra hoops to get to the same information. And there shouldn't be aspects of a class that are blocked to them necessarily because of a disability. If a certain method of instruction is not possible for a student with a disability, it would be incumbent upon us to find another way to teach that student in the way that they are getting the same information in relatively the same way. Or what they say is an equally effective and equally integrated manner. And that will depend on the class and what the content is. But hopefully that explains it a little bit. So what I'd like to talk about next is how do people with disabilities typically use computers? So it depends on the type of disability that they have. We're going to be discussing mostly how to write equations for students who are blind or low vision in this screencast. But obviously, other types of disabilities have other types of barriers. If you are a student who is blind or has very low vision, you most likely will be relying on what is called screen reading software. And we'll be talking about the specific names of those brands in a second. A screen reader is essentially a software program that essentially overlays on top of whatever else you're working on with your computer, and it will voice what is on the screen. And you can move around the screen via keyboard commands and have all of the screen content read to you. For students who are low vision, maybe they don't have vision to the point of needing screen reading software yet, they can just rely on screen magnification software, and a lot of those are built in now to most computer systems. Students that have mobility impairments or perhaps even learning disabilities may benefit from voice recognition software, which is software where you dictate to the computer and it types out what you're saying. For students who have difficulty typing or manipulating a mouse, this could be very helpful. Students who just tend to think better by talking out their ideas also might benefit from this. And the last category we'll discuss is for some students with mobility impairments, perhaps an alternative input device, such as alternative mice, which we have several examples of in our high-tech center here at DVC. So in terms of screen reading software, there's many products out there in the market. The most popular one is JAWS, which stands for Job Access with Speech, and all of the student labs on our campus, each computer in each student lab is equipped with JAWS. The icon looks like a little shark fin, and that is made by a company called Freedom Scientific. And I really encourage you, if you want to kind of check it out, if you have a document you're kind of curious how it will read with a screen reader, walk into any lab, load your document, and turn on JAWS, and you'll be able to tell right away if it's really needs some work or if it's pretty good. The next one that is relatively common is called NVDA, which stands for Non-Visual Desktop Access, and you can download that for free at nvaccess.org. It is Windows specific, so there's not a version available for Mac at this time. And also because it's a download, it would require you to have administrator rights on your on your computer, so that may pose an issue for some folks. If you are a Mac user, you already have a built-in screen reader. It's called VoiceOver. On the Online Accessibility DVC website, which I'll link to later on, there are tutorials on how to use NVDA and VoiceOver in case you want to test out your own material. So just to kind of highlight these other types of assistive technologies, screen magnification software, the most popular one is called ZoomText. That is also on every student computer. It's a big black Z on a yellow background, and it can magnify up to 32 times the regular size while surprisingly maintaining pretty crisp text resolution. So for many of our students with a visual impairment, that suffices. But again, if it's a very severe impairment, and vision of the screen is not possible, then we would want to explore using a screen reader. Windows already has a built-in magnifier, as I mentioned before, as does Mac. And I sort of already touched upon this, but the most popular voice recognition program on the market is Dragon Naturally Speaking. You may have heard of it. It's advertised on the radio a lot. And we do have that here at DSS for students that are eligible to use it. You're also probably familiar with some of the other voice recognition apps. Siri is one, Amazon Echo. Lots of new products are coming out that are using this technology. So now let's look at some actual authoring tools for math. We're going to touch upon 4 of them today. The first one is Microsoft's native equation editor, which just comes built in with Microsoft Word and PowerPoint. If you're familiar with, this is usually the equation editor most people are already readily familiar with. We're also going to discuss a product called MathType 7, which is a suite of products and has various platforms that you could use it on. There is a desktop version, which includes math support or the ability to write math equations. And there's also MathType and ChemType add-ons for Chrome and Office 365. The Office 365 add-on is still in development, but they are saying it should be coming out very soon. And that also includes ChemType, which has specific buttons that you can press to add in for chemistry equations. And then the last one is MathType and ChemType for Canvas. So that's a built-in LTI on Canvas, which also includes MathType and ChemType. So the chemistry support is built into that as well. So we're going to kind of take each of these in isolation and look at them a little bit further. I obviously don't work for MathType, but I'm trying to bring to you some of the most updated products I've been able to find, and also the ones that I have been able to use with some success myself. You will find other authoring tools out there, but these are ones that I feel like I can endorse with good conscience because I know they have been used readily in other institutions and I've used them myself. And many of your colleagues may have used it as well. So before we go on to MathType, let's revisit Microsoft's native equation editor. I don't really recommend using this, and I'll explain why. So if you have an open Word document and you go to the equation editor and add in an equation, it will not be accessible right out of the gate. It's not readable by a screen reader in that form. And that is because it's essentially just an image that Word is stamping onto the page, an image of that equation. What you would need to do to make it accessible is to add alternate text to the image, which would describe the equation. And I have here on the slide sort of a real short workflow for how to do that. This is an extra step you would have to do. And I'll demonstrate for you in just a second. I'll go to a Word document and show you how I do this. But I think it's a little bit of a shortcoming that you can't add alternate text into the equation just directly. You have to go to this extra step and actually take a snip of it and copy that back into your document, which seems really redundant. But allow me to go ahead and demonstrate this for you. So I'm going to go into a Word document, and I'll demonstrate for you the process for making a an equation generated with the native editor into an accessible format. So let's see. All right, so I'm going to go here and I'm going to go up to Insert and then on over to Equation. Okay, so I'm going to use my drop down arrow and just find one that's already populated. Let's go with quadratic formula. Okay, so now what I'd like to do is, just for demonstration's sake, I'd like to have my screen reader JAWS program play this just to show you that it is in fact not going to read properly. So allow me to turn on my JAWS.
Microsoft's native equation editor : graphic 2.95 inches wide by 0.885 inches high, graphic 2.35 inches wide by 0.531 inches high, graphic 0.344 inches wide by 0.427 inches high, minus.
Okay, so I'm going to
Menu to move.
turn off my JAWS here. And I think you can tell from that right away that it's not in fact reading the equation. It's reading actually sort of the dimensions of the graphic, which is definitely not what we want. Let's see. Pardon me, let me go back here. Okay, so that's not going to work for us. But what I can do is actually, after I've inserted my equation, I can go down to my snipping tool, which if you have excuse me, if you have a PC, it should already be loaded as a tool onto your PC. If you have a Mac, you can also press Shift plus Command plus 4, and that will allow you to snip certain parts of your page. So I'm going to take my snipping tool and I'm going to just capture that, and I've created I've snipped it out, and now I'm going to copy sorry, let's see, copy, and let me go back in here and I'm going to paste, and these may look the same, but they're actually different. This is a copy of an actual picture that I can add alternate text to, and you can't do that just in the equation as it stands right after you insert it. So if I select the picture that I just inserted, right click and go to Format Picture, and once over in Format Picture, I can click on Layout and Properties. There is an alt text box that I can then type in a description for this. So I could literally type, you know, x equals, excuse me, x equals negative b plus or minus. You get the idea. You want to think about how you would word that. I know that's a little bit laborious, and that's why I'm showing you this first, because I think there's alternates that you could use that are better and less labor intensive for you. Let me go back to my PowerPoint now, pick up where we left off. So when we talk about adding alternate text to an image for math, you know, it can get confusing because you think, well, how do I describe it? This next slide shows some examples of ways that you could describe a formula, and this one is the formula for velocity, and it's showing you 3 different ways you could maybe describe that in words. Velocity is equal to distance divided by time, v equals d over t, where v is velocity, d is distance, and t is time, or v equals d over t. So there's various ways you could describe this depending on how detailed you want to get, and probably depending on how much you've explained in class. So that is one option, to use the native equation editor, take a snip of the equation, copy it, paste it, and then go and add alternate text. Again, not my preferred method, but it might be yours. So the next thing that we're going to talk about, let's see, excuse me. Okay, so the next version that we're going to talk about, or way to generate accessible math, is using this product called MathType 7. Now this is a product for purchase. It does require a download. IT here at DVC is familiar with it. There are members of the math department who currently use this authoring tool. It is $39.95 for yearly subscription as of October 17th, 2018, which also includes web add-ons. So that is a cost, but I think the math department has been willing to purchase this in the past. Don't quote me on that, but it's not extremely cost prohibitive. It works both for Windows and Mac. On the desktop version, there is no chemistry toolbar, but it does add a tab directly into your Word ribbon. And so that is kind of nice, because if you're already generating your equation in Word, you just literally click on the tab in your ribbon and you can generate equations. To make the equation readable with a screen reader, you do need to do something called publish to math page, which I'll demonstrate for you in a second. So what I'm going to do right now is go onto that same Word doc that we were looking at, and I'm going to just delete these things. Okay, so now let's go down to show you what it looks like when you generate an equation with MathType Desktop. Okay. So as you can see, since I've already downloaded this, I have the icon on my ribbon. So if I click on that, it's going to show me all sorts of options. They have a good tutorial if you go to MathType Help, and then they have a tutorial called Using MathType in Word, which is good. So I definitely recommend that if you use this. Excuse me. There's many ways you can use this. I'm going to show you the way that I know, but again, other math faculty might have different ways that they choose to input equations using this platform. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to the inline button, and after I do that, what should pop up is a menu. Has to think for a little bit, obviously. Okay. We're waiting on that. Okay, so here is the window that I was looking for, and this has all of my functions or buttons that I can use to draft my math equation. I'm going to make this real simple on myself, and I'm just going to do a simple square root. So I'm going to come here and type, let's see, square root of 64 equals 8. Okay. So there's my equation, and if I go to File and Update Math Equations in Word Doc, I can close that, and there it is. Okay, and so in order to make this readable by a screen reader, if I click Publish to Math Page, and it will ask you to save it first, I can just leave all of these things as the default, HTML plus MathJax. MathJax is a math reading sort of plugin that this will be using then. So if I click OK, what it's going to do is it's literally going to make kind of a web file of what I just wrote, as you'll see here. Okay, and this you could save and send to a student if a student in your class needed an accessible version of this. But you know, the important thing is that you authored it with MathType, because it's so easy to generate a math page from it that you could, as I said, send it on to whoever would need it. Let me show you how JAWS would read this so you can hear the difference between this and the native equation editor. So I'm turning on my JAWS. As you know, it takes a minute to fire up here.
Root of 64 equals 8, error describing element.
Okay, let's try to read that again.
MathType Desktop : the square root of 64 equals 8, error describing element.
I'm going to close JAWS. So I was getting some sort of error describing the menu, but before that, you probably heard it read square root of 64 equals 8. So once you publish this to a math page, it will read it. So that's an easy feature to do within MathType. Let's go back to the PowerPoint. There is a light version, I do want to mention, of MathType that after 30 days, there's a free 30-day trial to use all the features. After 30 days, it does bump you down to the light version if you don't want to pay the yearly subscription fee. The light version doesn't have as many functions. So I believe it is in someone's best interest to pay the money, especially because, um, if it's an institutional type of cost, I think it's in our best interest. You never know if you're going to have a student that is going to need this type of capability to read with a screen reader entering your class. So that's my 2 cents on that. So the next version of MathType I wanted to talk about was the add-on for Chrome. So if you are authoring documents in Google Docs, this is a great option. It also includes the ChemType area, so that can be helpful as well. The benefit of this is that, to my knowledge, you don't need to have administrator rights on your computer to add in the MathType app, or add-on rather. I could be wrong about that, so I will double check. It is still the $39.95 subscription, but it's easy to insert notation into Google Docs, and I'll demonstrate that as well. The other benefit of this is that you can insert handwritten equations, and I'll show you that. So if you're using like a Chromebook and you like to write in equations, you can do that with this, and it will generate it into, it'll convert it into an accessible format that is readable by a screen reader. So let me demonstrate this for you. I'm going to go into a Google Doc. So I'm going to go into my Google, okay, and I'll go into Drive. Okay, so I have an untitled document here I'm going to open up. Should be blank, I think. Yeah, okay. So let's do this. I've already added the add-on here, and once you've downloaded the add-on, if you go up to add-ons, you'll see there's a MathType area, and if you click on that, or if you hover over it, you'll notice it says Insert or Edit Math Equation and Insert Edit Chem Formula. So what we're going to do, just for fun, let's just do a chem formula. Now again, I haven't taken chem in forever, so bear with me. I'm just going to do something really, really simple. So I've clicked on that, and my ChemType window opens, and I have all these areas here where I could do something. I'm not even sure what I'm really doing here, so I'm just going to do something for fun. It looks cool. So I'm going to click on this. And let's see, how about I put a 6 up here, and how about I put a 4 down here? I'm not even sure if that's right. Just bear with me. So I can type in whatever I want, and I can type in or press insert, and that will put it into my page. So let's do this. So, and these all save. The beauty of Google Docs is it just saves automatically, which you're probably familiar with. So let me do this. I'm going to minimize that. And now I'm going to, let's see, I'm going to go into JAWS, open up my JAWS again. Okay, actually, I think what I'm going to do is actually close that out and go back into it, because what I'm listening for, Chrome will automatically detect a screen reader if it's there, but I think what helps it is if I close the document and then open it back up again. Let's try that.
Document https://drive.google.com/drive/Google untitled document Google Docs edited today. Turn on dismiss.
Okay, now I'm going to open that up.
Document Google Docs page has 2 regions, 1 application and 2 links. Document content edit type and text forms mode. File menu submenu collapsed. Toggle screen reader support. Screen reader support enabled. Screen reader support enabled on page 1. Star. File menu submenu collapsed. Edit view menu insert menu submenu.
Okay, let's go to the content, see if it'll read.
Explore no suggestions button collapsed.
Let's see.
Image alt text title integral subscript 4 superscript 6 alt text description less math xmlns equals quote http.
Okay, so he keeps talking, but in there he did say what it actually was. So again, you might feel like, wow, this is a lot of language to filter through, and you wouldn't be wrong. I can tell you a student using screen readers is so used to that. They are extremely adept at filtering through what is not important. The thing is, though, what we want them to hear needs to be in there somewhere. And as technology improves, as our authoring improves, hopefully we can continue to filter out all the not needed stuff. But what we're talking about here is taking an equation that is completely inaccessible and making it better than it was. So I am hopeful that we can continue to make these things clearer. Let me turn off my JAWS.
Menu. Leaving menus. Quit JAWS.
Okay, and we're going to go back to the PowerPoint presentation. I have one more platform to show you. Oh, okay, get back over there. Okay, the last derivative of math type that is already available to you is in Canvas. So if you author math in Canvas or chemistry, this can really be helpful. There's no download required, again, already there. You can easily insert notation into the rich content editor if you have created pages in Canvas. You can also insert handwritten equations. I know I didn't show you that before, but I can show you that now when we talk about Canvas. And again, if you use these LTIs in Canvas, it is readable by a screen reader. So I'm going to go now to my Canvas course, or one of them, and I will show you just how easy it is to generate an accessible equation in Canvas. Okay, so I'm going to go to one of my pages. Okay, so I have already added some things to here. Now there is a native equation editor in Canvas, which is right here. I have not found that to be to work well with screen readers. So I'm going to recommend that you use MathType and ChemType. And the way you add those, if you don't already have them, you can tell if you have them and you click on this More External Tools button. And what you're looking for is something that says insert a math equation, MathType, insert a chemistry formula, ChemType. You'll notice I do have these here. This was sort of the old name. I have to delete those. It's essentially the same thing though. Whereas bought MathType and ChemType. So what you're looking for is these two. If you don't see those in your external tools list, you can go down to settings all the way down at the left hand side and then go into apps and actually type in MathType or ChemType and find them. Okay, so I'm going to use my insert a math equation, MathType LTI here. Can't for the life of me remember what LTI means, but that's okay. All right, so let me make this a little bit bigger. So it's kind of like MathType for the desktop, where you click it and a little box opens. And you can use all of these things again to generate your equation, just like in the desktop version. But this also has this nifty little handwriting thing. So again, if you have a stylus and you have kind of a touchpad, you can do that, or you can use your mouse, which I'm going to attempt to do right now. So you can literally just draw what you want. It's kind of tricky. Okay, and down here it'll show you what it thought you meant. Now I did not write G, so I'm going to go back and I'm going to try to write my 8 a little bit better. Okay, now it did it correctly. And you can say OK, and it'll insert it. And this is readable by a screen reader. So if you publish this and a student with JAWS went to read it, it would read. The same goes for the ChemType. You can also draw in chemistry equations. I don't have as much experience with that, so I am really welcoming if you use this and you have feedback, please let me know, because I can then give it to the Canvas folks. And I have found that they are very responsive to feedback. Okay, so let's go back to our PowerPoint. So as I mentioned, which one of these tools you use depends on where you are authoring. So if you're a Microsoft Word user, you like generating equations there, MathType 7 Desktop may be a good option for you. Again, you can use the native editor, you just have to go the extra step to allow yourself to put in the alt text. If you like Google Docs or Office 365, MathType, ChemType, web add-ons would be an option. And then in Canvas, you also have the MathType and ChemType apps. So pros and cons, if we had to weigh these things, I would say that the pros are in the favor of the MathType suite of products. Don't work for them, obviously, as I mentioned. But again, I think for what is on the market now, this is sort of the most vetted product. The con of that is that it costs $39.95 a year. So you may want to have a discussion with your department if this is something that your department is interested in purchasing. Where can you get these? So MathType Desktop and the MathChem web add-ons, you can download a 30-day free trial from the website listed here. I will be sending, or I'll be posting this PowerPoint also to the website, so you'll have that link to that. And you don't need to do anything to get MathType and ChemType for Canvas. You just need to add it as one of your apps, but it is already there. Okay, I hope that that information has helped you think of ways you could generate accessible equations in an online format. There's other ways that students with disabilities obviously can read math content, not necessarily in an online format. Braille is one way that some students do. We can do our own in-house Braille if it's pretty basic. For more complicated math or chemistry Braille needs, we do contract with external vendors. We can send it out and they send it back. Or we send them the original and they send it back to us in a Brailled format. For exams, we commonly will use a scribe to read and record what a student is doing. A lot of instructors now are starting to do online exams, and so I would encourage you, if you're pursuing that, to make sure that the platform that you're using for your online math exam is screen reader friendly. If you don't know, you can just go directly to the vendor and ask, or you could have us test out what you're using. For graphs and charts, we can emboss things to make a raised version that a student can feel for more simple graphs and charts. For more complicated material, often what we'll do is we'll chunk out the graph or chart into smaller segments, generate that, we'll blow it up, generate the different segments in an embossed way, and then put it back together. Many tactile products are on the market for all manner of things. So if you want to find like a tactile model of a certain compound, like or a molecule, a certain molecule, those do exist. And again, as a department, you may want to discuss if it's worth your interest to purchase, excuse me, a set of these things that can be used by the whole department in case they are needed. A word about PDFs. So PDFs typically are not a good file type for math because it's hard to manipulate it after it's been converted to a PDF. Like for Braille, for example, it's really hard to Braille a PDF. I'm actually not even sure if it is possible. If you do like to use PDFs, we ask that you hang on to the source file, whatever you have first generated that file in, be it Word or Pages or what have you. That way we could get our hands on the source file if we needed to convert it to whatever suits the student. If you don't have that source document anymore, you just have a PDF, let us know. We can kind of do some things to try to convert it back to a more accessible format. Long story short, too late, I am, and we are, meaning my whole department, are here for you. Math and science content can be tricky, and we may feel like, oh my gosh, you know, I got notification I have a student who's blind coming into my class. How in the world am I going to make this work? We can make it work. We've done it before. The best thing for you to do is to be proactive. And even if you don't have the chance to be proactive, don't be afraid to reach out to us. This is why we exist. I'm hoping that the tips here gave you some tools for how to accessibilize your own stuff before you have to come to us, but we are always available. So please reach out, and my contact information is on here. No question is too big or too small. So I appreciate your time, and I hope to see you soon in person, and good luck.